Welcome to the Rugby League Outsiders, and in this episode we're going to talk to Matt Kennerson, who is the head coach of the Irish Rugby League women's team, and we're also going to talk to senior players Clodagh Dunne and Alex McGuinness. Now, this episode was filmed whilst Ireland's having a training camp just outside Rochdale, where we caught up with them. Your women's role to start off with, and then we'll dive into your Dublin role as well a little bit.
Newly appointed coach of the women's rugby league team for Ireland. We are embarking on two World Cup qualifiers, one the 28th of April in Wales against Wales, and the second one will be the 19th of May in Donnybrook against potentially either Italy or Holland. So we win both. We get a seat in the 2026 World Cup. It'll be the first time ever for the Irish women's rugby league team that'll happen. So that's our main goal, I guess. I've been after this job for a couple of years. Really wanted to get involved. I'm big into women's sport in Ireland and promoting that over there. Involved heavily in the tag rugby, touch, rugby league, my own club, and just thought that I could bring something to the table with my rugby league knowledge. Super excited to get started and taking on a new journey.
That's obviously your role with the women's team, the women's national team. Talk to me a little bit about Dublin City Exiles then. I mean, how long have you been in Dublin?
Yep.
How did you kind of get involved in the club there?
Yeah, so I've probably been involved with the Dublin City Exiles for about 4 to 5 years now. Coming from a rugby league background in Australia, I kind of fell out of love with the game a little bit after playing at a few clubs and not getting another contract and stuff. So I moved away from it and didn't really play rugby league when I moved to Ireland 10 years ago this March. I've been in Ireland actually. And then just through the tag community, I met a member of the Dublin City Exiles who had said to me, we're going to launch a women's rugby league team. I know you've got a good involvement in the women's touch. At the time I coached the women's Irish touch team and heavily involved in the Irish tag. He said, would you like to coach the women's team? I said, yeah. It'd be a great way for me to get back into rugby league. I said, I'm not playing. I just want to coach. So I took on the role, and I knew a lot of the women through tag and touch within Ireland. So I had a good base of women who were a great sporting pedigree already in Ireland. So my job was kind of easy at the start. I just put the feelers out to a lot of the girls in the tag, into rugby, into the touch community, and we formed the first women's team, the Dublin City Exiles women, and we had one other team, the Galway Tribes women, who we played against, and another team, the Athboy girls, that never got off the ground. They struggled a little bit. So that's how it all came about. Just a mate asked me, and I wanted to get back into rugby league, and I thought this would be the best way. And 5 years on, I'm still with the club. I'm going to be taking on a little bit of a different role this year. Still looking after the girls, but more so a coaching director role, try and build up the coaching standard within the club. Dublin City Exiles, I'm super glad that's where I ended up when I got back into league in Ireland.
And just talk to me about your sort of pathway in rugby league. So from the start, leading up to sort of being the Irish coach, really. From
the start, quickly, obviously Australian. So born and raised in rugby league heartland in Australia, in Blacktown. Be very similar to areas up north here in England that live and breathe rugby league. And I played all my juniors through the Parramatta and Penrith comp. Got a contract to go to a scholarship to go to a rugby league school, Patrician Brothers Blacktown, where a lot of great rugby league players have come from, are all involved in the NRL. Chased that through into my teens and quite successful, and played at Parramatta Juniors and Penrith Junior and New South Wales side, and then a few injuries, kind of put that on hold a little bit, took a hiatus for a year or two, went back, played a bit in the Queensland competition, and then just didn't really get the contract I thought I wanted or I deserved to get in my eyes. So I kind of fell out of love with the game and went travelling for a little bit, and that was the end of my rugby league time in Australia. Always played tag and touch on the side anyway to keep the ball skills up. And then I started travelling and played a little bit over in Ireland, and that's how I really got back into it. But it all came from my grassroots in Australia and led into where I am now over here in Ireland.
Did you say you've been in Ireland 10 years now?
Yes, it'll be
roughly 10 years. Yeah.
It'll be 10 years in March, on and off. I work for an outdoor adventure company. Very lucky with the role that I have. I get to travel a lot in the winter months in Ireland that we don't get to trade. No one wants to be outside doing outdoor adventures in the middle of January. So on and off 10 years. I go home quite regularly to Australia and I travel quite a lot. But yeah, it'll be 2014, 2024, 10 years, which
I
is
suppose
mad.
what I was going to touch on is obviously coaching the women's Ireland national side now. Does any part of you feel Irish?
Yeah, actually, it's a
or
funny.
do you feel like a complete outsider, or is it?
Yeah, at first I did. I mean, when I first came over, I was straight away involved in international Irish coaching with the tag rugby. I had a good background with that in Australia, and that's how I came about a little bit in my role in Ireland. So at first, yes, I was that outsider. I was that Australian guy who had this knowledge of the sport because tag rugby wasn't big in Ireland, but I didn't feel Irish. And then I got my first game for Ireland in tag, and then I played for Ireland in touch, and then I played for Ireland in rugby league, and still wearing the jersey, it still hadn't hit. And then it was a trip. I went home a couple of years ago, and I said it naturally to someone. They're like, "Oh, are you excited to go home?" And I said, "Well, I'm not going home. I'm leaving home to go back and visit my family." And I said the same thing to Mum when I was back in Australia. I said, and she goes, "Are you ready?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go home." And Ireland is my home now. 10 years. My friends are here. My partner's here. My business is here. My love for sport is here as well. So I definitely do now, and I start to feel that passion that the Irish feel when you put on the green jumper. And even I'm not playing for Ireland anymore in rugby league, I'm now coaching for them. I feel that, and I see that passion within the girls, and I'm super excited and super honoured that they've accepted me to be a part of that. Yeah, it's amazing.
Matt, I just wonder, just looking at the girls that you coach, what are the things that you keep going back to in terms of coaching the women? Obviously, like a lot of women coming into rugby league is very new for them.
Yep.
What are the things that you keep sort of going back to?
I think definitely just trying to reiterate to the girls that they're not made of glass.
Yeah.
That they are tough, and they're tough enough to do this, and with that strong mindset, we can do it. I feel that Irish athletes, especially girls coming from the GAA or rugby background, they're playing at such a young age, they figure that out quite early, and if they can maintain that into rugby league, which we know is such a brutal sport, they'll be fine. That's half the battle, is that mental battle to be able, in rugby league, there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
For 80 minutes you're out there, there's nowhere to hide. So once they figure that out and they get that first bit of contact out of the way and they go, I'm sweet. Doesn't matter how big she is or how hard they hit, I'm good. The rest is easy. They can all catch, pass and run. We just need to be the tougher one on the field just to take those hard hits. And that's what I keep trying to push to the girls, that if we can do what we do best, skill-wise, we'll be fine. But if we win that mental toughness battle, that they will not break us, that this doesn't hurt, we'll win those games we need to win.
And the same question then for tag rugby, because obviously, with running rugby, whatever you call it, it's all about that contact, and you're not going to get broken and all this kind of stuff. Obviously, you haven't got that in tag. So, what are the lessons that you keep having to drive home?
Yeah, it was a bit harder in tag when I first came over, being tag so big in Australia. It's such a primary ball sport to keep you fit for your contacts in the off-season. So all the players there have that skill set. So when I came to Ireland, it was very much a beers and burger social sport.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it is. It is still in some respect. So trying to get them to figure out that it can be played competitively and at quite a high level. And once we figured that out, what our identity was as an Irish tag community was, and it naturally formed as a defence. We're a great defensive nation in Irish tag rugby, that we pride ourselves that a lot of people play 5 nights a week in Ireland tag, that we pride ourselves that we don't miss tags. The way we defend is tight, and as a unit, we might not be as skillful, and it proved the last World Cup last year we had in Limerick in Ireland. We didn't win as many divisions as we'd like to. We probably didn't have the talent and the skill set, but we didn't leak anywhere near as many tries as any other nation, and that was something to be proud of. And I think the Irish tag community can definitely pride themselves on being, that stronghold in defence. So that's what I kind of push home for the Irish tag community.
Nice.
You mentioned coaching the women, that the biggest hurdle to get over was almost getting the mental toughness, getting used to the contact.
Yep.
Would you say that's the biggest difference in coaching women's rugby to men's?
I think the biggest difference is the skill set, that the men just seem to play rugby league from a younger age and develop the skill set of rugby league a little earlier. I think women are tougher than men.
Yeah.
100%. I love watching women's contact. they get stuck in and they're not afraid of a bit of blood, and they're not afraid to getting involved in that contact. I think where we lack is that little bit of skill level that maybe they might have, that they're not brave enough to showcase, that they might be a bit reserved in the sense that they're worried about making mistakes, a bit self-conscious about that. So I think that, that's where we might be a bit different to the men. But toughness-wise, I think we got the fellas covered 100%. Yeah, some tough girls out there for sure.
I've just got a question there. So you mentioned culture for the tag rugby, the international tag rugby. Two parts to this question. One is, what is your main sort of coaching ethos? And secondly, what ethos are you looking to imprint on the women's national side now?
Yeah, it's the same across all the codes I coach. I coach Irish tag rugby. I'm the head coach of the Irish men's opens touch team. We're about to embark on a World Cup, and the women's, and it's very much we do what we say we're going to do. Like I said, in rugby league, there's nowhere to hide out there, so don't have this big chat before the game and be in the huddle, the one voice in your opinion, you get out there and go missing. If you say you're going to do a job, do that job, because if our policy is I trust my inside and out, and you trust that I'm going to do something, I don't do it, the whole building collapses around us. So definitely I like to pride ourselves on that we can trust each other to do what we say we're going to do, and don't be afraid to leave it all out there on the line. I think the Irish in any code, sport, Olympics through history has been the underdog. I think if we embrace that and use that to our advantage, let's be the proud underdog of Ireland, I think that'll go a long way as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's something you can really get behind, into the idea that, nobody expects us to do anything here,
Nope.
So, but what we can do is put lots of graft in and be there for each other, and who knows, on any day, it could be our day.
Yeah, and I don't overcomplicate it. I have a very simple coaching structure. Get out of our half well, keep the ball in good ball when we have it, don't waste tackles, have a crack. We don't have to be doing this fancy stuff that other teams do. We don't have that history of coming through the juniors with that, so let's put that to the side and just be the best grafters we possibly can and win those 1% areas where, we might get the bit over with a contact, or we might be in the scrapyard and just work and overtime those extra efforts to make that. If we can win those other things, the other stuff will come naturally. We have talented girls, fast girls, strong girls, ball-playing girls. That'll happen. If we can do those little, extra effort plays and win those other parts that the underdog always seems to win in big games, that's the Irish mentality, and that's the identity we want to maintain in the women's team.
We're at the Ireland training camp today. You got girls, boys, students, wheelchair. There'll be some exiles knocking about, I would have thought. How do you think Irish rugby is at the minute? What sort of state do you think it is? Because it seems to be, from my opinion looking in, it seems to be in a good place.
Yeah, it's hard to see it because, especially in the international stage, it's hard to see it where it is to pinpoint it, being that we have a lot of players based here in the UK with deep Irish heritage, might have moved over when they were young kids, or their parents moved over for work. And then over in Ireland, rugby is the more dominant code, and rugby league is still in its infant stages. So trying to gauge where it is very hard to pinpoint it. I think the women's game is always on the rise. I think globally, women's sport has finally been given the chance to come to the forefront, especially rugby league in Australia. You see how good the girls are there and how well they're promoted. And it's happening now in rugby in Ireland for the women, and I think the women's game is the key to opening the door in Ireland for rugby league. I don't think it's the men's anymore. I mean, we've competed at World Cups, and we've got the Irish A's men's team, and we've got the young guys who won the 16s or the 19s last year. So we are competing, but I think the women's hold the key to opening the door in the rugby league community, especially back home.
It's almost like a level playing field, isn't it? Because nearly all nations are sort of starting at the same point, aren't they?
Yeah, I had a phone call with the Welsh coach, one of the Welsh management team, and we want to try and organise an Irish A's and Welsh A's as well, so a second grade team for the women's as well.
Yeah,
and he's on the same page. They're rebuilding, they're getting girls from rugby to commit to rugby league, and finding girls who have that heritage or involved in rugby league. And I know Italy do the same, and Holland, and I've got girls who played for Exiles last couple of years who have moved to Australia to chase that NRLW dream, and it's starting. But everyone you're right, is in that same place where everyone wants it to speed up and get there, but it's going to be a slow process. But everyone's in the same boat, and I think if we can make these fixtures more regular, whether we make the World Cup or not, I'm not going anywhere. I want to continue to grow it. I think the sport in 2 to 5 years' time will be in a much better place if we get that women's game off the ground.
Matt, I wonder what players are coming through the Ireland sort of setup now that kind of excite you for the future.
In the women's, it's super new. Like today, I think we have 20 girls 20 girls training. We've probably got 6 or 8 UK based, the rest are from Ireland, and then we have another session here on the 24th. We have about 26 signed up as well. We've got a 30-woman squad here. I think about 18 or 19 are from and living in Ireland. The rest are UK-based girls. Excited young girl, Alex McGuiness. She might be on the podcast later. Very good rugby player, very good touch player, very good tag player, just a natural halfback in rugby league. If anyone knows rugby league and saw her play, the way she communicates and demands the ball in big moments, she's a halfback. And I think if she puts her mind to it, she can be quite successful. Very, very exciting. There's a few other girls who are very new to rugby league, have only been to 1 or 2 sessions. I'm not going to name them just yet. I think they might be a little bit embarrassed if I do that. But girls who have played rugby a long time and might have been let down by the rugby community, being they should have been in Leinster teams or Munster teams or even Irish squads much sooner, but maybe they didn't know the right person or they weren't in the right setup, but have had that talent for years, are finally going to get their shot. They're going to get to wear a green jumper. They're going to be, at the forefront of women's sport, and I think they're going to turn a lot of heads. There's some really good talent coming from rugby, converting over rugby league in Ireland at the moment.
Is there any, so I know obviously funding and all that, it governs a lot, but is there any overseas players that you're kind of teeing up for a position in the Ireland women's team?
Yeah, I'd love to name 2 of them.
But you can't. I get you can't.
I can't, unfortunately. They're contracted players with the NRLW, and we are just, at the moment, we're talking heritage and all that kind of stuff. But there is a lot of interest. Yeah. I mean, everywhere you travel, there's always an Irish person or Irish people, and they're always recepted so well. I see it at home when I go home to Australia, and I've got a lot of friends who are from Ireland who live there, and it's the same, when Ireland are looking for players. Who wants to be involved in Ireland in any sport? 100 hands go up. Yeah. Oh, my grandfather, or my mum, or I've always been Irish, and everyone wants to be involved. I think that's great about Ireland as a nation, and there's definitely a lot down in Australia. You'd be surprised if I held up a card here with the names in the NRLW who is eligible for Ireland, who contacted us about wanting to play. It's super, super exciting, but we might leave that for another podcast.
Yeah.
Another
day. For anybody who doesn't know, what is it that to register for Ireland? How far back does it go? Is it grandparents?
Yeah, so you've got to have grandparents. Yep, so it's a bloodline. So your grandparents have to be Irish. 1 or 2 grandparents on one side. Anything further, great-grandparents...
Doesn't count,
yep. So, and it is hard for people. I've had a lot of girls contact me going, my great-grandparents on both sides are Irish. I'm really sorry, it's that one step too far. So it's grandparents, if anyone's watching and your grandparents are Irish and you have an interest, get in contact.
Sure. Is it the same with Irish students? Like if a student is based in Dublin, say, but they're from England, are they then eligible to play for Ireland students? You might not know.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the students. I know when I came over to Ireland, obviously I've got no Irish family or lineage or bloodline, so I had to be in the country for 3 years to qualify as sports residence. Yeah. So I was allowed to play for the Irish A's in rugby league because of my residence in Australia. I don't know if I'd be allowed to play in the senior men's in a World Cup. There'd have to be a bit more investigation there. I've been there 10 years, maybe that's different. Yeah. The students, I'm not too sure. Maybe if you're attending college in Ireland, maybe you are eligible to play, but I wouldn't know. I'd be lying if I gave you the correct answer to that one. Yeah.
Say, just for instance, say you've got a international women's player from Australia coming over and she wants to play for Ireland.
Who've you heard, Cal? Carry on.
Right. If you didn't think that person fit in with the Irish ethos, but she was a better player, what would you be saying to her?
She wouldn't play.
Yeah.
And that's across the board. And I don't know if I can say this. There's no dickheads. We have a no dickhead policy. I don't know if I can say that in the podcast.
No, you can say it,
apologies if I can't.
No.
It's a no dickhead policy. And that's in any team I have. And I've always prided myself as a coach that I don't always pick the best players. I pick the players that will create the best team. There's no point in picking 13 Andrew Johns to go on and play a game.
Yeah.
You're not going to win a game. You need to pick the right player in the right position with that right headspace that fits into, one, the team philosophy, and two, how you want to run the team. And that does happen. It will happen within this squad. There are some great players that might not click with what we're trying to run. They're not going to get game time. And it'll be the same for any girls going forward if we are successful in making the World Cup. I know we'll have a lot of interest from the girls based in Australia. You got to fit in. You got to be a part of what we're trying to do. I don't care if you come from the Broncos and we do it this way and watch me.
Yeah.
That's not how we do it here. We have our own identity, whether it's right or wrong. That's who we are, and jump on board. And if not, you won't be wearing the jumper.
That's a great answer, and I'm sure any female Irish players, that'd be what they would want to hear. Definitely,
yeah. Well, something else people might want to hear is like, well, what is a celebration in Dublin? What's it, or post-match piss up or whatever? I mean,
unfortunately, I haven't got to that yet with the women's. Right. I haven't got that far. I haven't coached them in a game yet. I know the Dublin City Exiles, the girls like to celebrate quite hard. I'll have a couple of beers with them, and then I will remove myself and let the girls to their own devices there. But it's like you go any country in the world, there's an Irish pub, and there's definitely an Irish person in there. The girls are no different. They get the win, they let everyone know about it, they party just as hard as anyone else. And I'm sure if or when we take that first win in Wales, Cardiff will be rocking that night for sure.
Brilliant. Okay, Matt, we're going to wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to kind of get across whilst you've got the opportunity? Or
we'd love a massive sponsor. If you know anyone who's bankrolling, hit me up. We always help. Honestly, we're self-funded at the moment. We're always looking for people to get behind women's sport and our team in general. And if it's something you're interested in, by all means, eyes are open. And any girls who see this podcast or hear this podcast want to be involved, I'm sure you can get my details from the lads. Go Ireland. There we go.
Yeah, it's been really insightful talking to you, Matt, on many levels, not just the Irish national side. Yeah. So good luck in the upcoming campaign. Good luck with your training day today, and we'll definitely keep an eye out for the women's national side. We're invested.
100%. We're invested. Yeah,
I appreciate it.
This is what happens. We do a podcast with somebody, and then we're fully invested.
Good lads, I love that. Thanks. I appreciate having me on, and I'll get to save some tickets to the big game.
I just want to take 2 minutes, just cut into this episode and just remind you that we're in a race to get to 1,000 subscribers this year, and we need your help. If you get anything from this podcast, whether it's just your single source of news for rugby league or whether you just like seeing me give Carl loads of shit about his haircut, then subscribing is the best thing you can do to help the podcast. This is just a hobby for us. We try and do it to the best of our ability. We're really good, we try and maximise the quality and find the greatest stories outside the heartlands. And in order to do that, we just need to know that we're on the right track. And subscribing is the best way that you can let us know. Now back to the interview. First of all, thank you very much for taking the time to chat to us today. I know you've got your busy Ireland training day today. Are you happy to do this or not? I don't know.
I'm happy. Al, you happy? The happiest.
Happiest ever. If you can sort of tell us a little bit about your route into rugby league, and then also how you got involved in the Irish women's team.
Yeah, sure. You want to kick off with that?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, super. Yeah. I suppose I like a lot of the Irish-based girls, grew up playing mostly union. And then when Exiles, so that's my club, Dublin City Exiles, were putting together a team initially, I actually knew Matt Kennerson from TAG. A lot of the squad, particularly the Dublin-based girls, would have played a high level of TAG, and was lucky enough to have Matt coach me in that as well. So I knew him well, and he said, "You like running into people.
Perfect.
You're an okay tag player. You'd probably be a little bit better at tag if there was a bit more contact involved. So I reckon you'd be good at league." So went down with a number of the girls there and was at the first training session. And I suppose from that kind of, Matt was already kind of waving the carrot of, you could potentially play for Ireland at some stage if, you keep at it and you work hard and whatever. And so I suppose that's how it started.
Brilliant. Alex?
Pretty much same as as Clodagh. I started playing union though when I was 6, so 16 years I've been at it. Oh my god,
just dawned on you.
Yeah. So I joined with the boys team. There was no girls team back then, and I played with the boys team right the way up to under 13s when then the boys couldn't play with the girls because the boys were too physical, even though I'd like to think I rang rings around them. And then I moved to the girls team in the club, and then just kept progressing up the age ranks through there. And then the same as Clodagh, we played on the same tag team. I'd known Matt for a long time as well through tag, and then I play touch as well. So he'd been involved in touch. And yeah, we went up to the exiles training one day, and the rest is history. But I had a bit of a different path after that. I actually went over to Sydney, and I signed with the South Sydney Rabbitohs for a brief amount of time. Didn't quite go as planned. I moved when I was 19, across the other side of the world by yourself, not knowing anyone. There was the worst rain forecast in 100 years when I was there, so everything was flooded. I was by myself in an apartment quite a lot. But I actually lived with Matt's mum for a little while until I got my own place. So yeah, me and Matt go back quite far. And then yeah, obviously the Ireland stuff, and that's the league story so far. Hopefully there's more to come.
It must have been an unbelievable experience though, going down and playing or training in Australia. Yeah,
pretty cool. Not many people can probably say they've done it from Ireland anyway. Yeah. I know Ronan Michael did a short stint down there as well. And then, yeah, myself, it was just crazy. Yeah, the experience I got even in such a short amount of time. And I've just learned so much that I could then take back over here. So it's a pretty cool thing to be able to say you've done.
Clodagh, I just wondered, when you think about like did you get into rugby as early as Alex did you, or was you a little bit later in?
Yeah, I suppose I started when I was 12.
Right.
Again, that'd be quite unusual. A lot of women in Ireland start in their kind of late teens, or maybe when they go to college. I was really lucky like that as well.
What did your friends think, or even your family? You know what I mean? Where suddenly you're starting to play rugby. Obviously we know it's quite physical, and there's a good chance you're going to get hurt. No doubt you've had injuries and stuff like that. What were they thinking?
Well, I suppose you probably wouldn't believe it looking at me now, but I was actually really small when I was a kid. It's hard to believe now, but I was one of the smallest in my class, and I would have grown up playing mostly camogie, so that's an Irish sport. It's part of the Gaelic Games.
Never heard of it.
Please explain that.
Do you know hurling?
Yeah.
So camogie is the female equivalent, right?
Oh, right, okay.
Like basically the exact same rules. So going around hitting each other with sticks, basically.
As you do.
Yeah, as you do. Yeah. So I was really stuck into that from an early age, and I suppose from when I went to school, when I went to secondary school, a number of the girls were kind of forming this team, and when I started initially, I was like 12. I was probably like 40 kilos, and I was playing under 18. I just had great coaches that really encouraged me all the way up, so I just stuck at it, and it's probably been the best decision I ever made, to be honest. Like the amount of friends and opportunities that I've got off the back of playing rugby, be that union or league, have been unbelievable, and then to get to play at some unbelievable places like Twickenham and in some great atmospheres it's been unbelievable.
So would you say it's part of your, both of you now, it's just part of your identity? When people think of you two, they think rugby players, is it part of your DNA? Yeah.
For me, yeah. I know this is going to sound so sad, but when people look me up on Google, the first thing that comes up is like everything that I've done rugby related. So
you Googled yourself, Al?
International rugby league player.
I'm trying to stay humble, guys.
I'd say yeah, for sure. Look, it's unavoidable. Like that's what I do Monday to Sunday, right? That's what I'm really passionate about. I suppose like outside of that, I try not allow that become my personality, let's say, or you know, the whole of me, because I think, you know, I've seen other cases where, you know, people get injured and you get that part of your identity taken away, and it's so difficult. So I do try and, you know, kind of do a bit work-wise, you know, invest there and invest in my relationships outside of rugby as well. But yeah, look, when I'm seeing the girls almost every day, of course, that is the main thing in my life, I suppose.
I think you're the first female guest that we've had on, and we kind of asked the same question, don't we? What's it like playing an aggressive sport? You're the first guest that we've had on that's gone from a more aggressive sport to a less aggressive sport. It's the first time, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I love the tough stuff, and I think that's, you know, that's obviously part of the Irish identity as well. That fighting Irish spirit, and that ability to enjoy going through the tough stuff and the hard yards. And yeah, I think that's something that you can see kind of in Irish teams almost across the board.
You talk about the fighting Irish spirit. What does it mean to you to actually put that Ireland jersey on? You know, it's got to be an incredibly proud moment.
Yeah, it's huge for me. Like, I suppose, like, growing up playing Gaelic games, where obviously you don't have the opportunity to represent your country. I like speaking Irish. I never thought about that, yeah. Yeah, I like speaking Irish. I actually spent a year in an all-Irish speaking school when I was 12. My parents shipped me off. So, yeah, like, that Irish cultural identity is huge to me, and to be able to pull on a green shirt is massive.
Alex?
Yeah, same as. Pretty special to have progressed from playing from a sport that there was maybe 2 girls playing in the club at the time when I first joined, to coming up to having a under 10s, 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s progression all the way up to women's is pretty special to see, one, the progression of the sport not only in the club but in the country. So it means, yeah, it's pretty special to represent kind of what you come from and your background, and all the women in Ireland really gives them something to look up to, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's just sort of zoom out a little bit, right? So from your experience, say you had, you know, a girl, a woman wants to get into rugby league. Like, what can they expect? 1, from the sport, and 2, from their local teams?
Bruised legs.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty encouraging these days. There's loads of, in Ireland anyway, opportunities. They have these taster sessions called Give It a Try. So you can come up and I think you pay a small amount for maybe 3 taster sessions where you go through catch pass, maybe a bit of tackle technique, or the younger girls would maybe go through tag games, something like that. So you get a kind of feel of what the game is like. So it's definitely come on a long way, that you're not going into something blind, and it's not just rugby is so tough and you're going to get hurt and break all your bones in your body. You can come and see that there's more to rugby than bashing each other, but that's the best bit in my opinion.
And I suppose, like, from a community aspect as well, it's huge, like, especially for people who are maybe taking it up a small bit older. Like in Exiles, we've got really good collaboration between the men's side and the women's side. Trainings are, you know, almost simultaneous at some points for obviously the non-contact stuff. It's a great group of guys. It's a great group of girls. We go away to a lot of games together, a lot of great nights out together. So those teams, you know, there is a really, really strong sense of community there. So I think that's something that, you know, playing a contact sport, and it, you know, especially kind of really bonds you as a group. I also obviously have something in common off the bat.
And how is the Irish division sort of coming along at the minute? How many sort of teams are you playing against, and how many weeks of the year is it running?
Currently not too many. So last year we had 3 teams, competitive teams. The Banbridge Broncos, the Exiles, and then the Galway Tribeswomen. But the numbers were kind of hit or miss. People had other commitments, or I know there was a Tag World Cup on in Ireland, so people's commitments were elsewhere last year. So the season kind of runs, I think we play each team twice, and then there's one day that it's a round robin, you play 10s.
Yeah.
And then there's big night out, everyone goes on. So yeah, it's kind of maybe 6 to 8 weeks you have, and then they do like a magic round like the NRL, where the boys teams would play a full 80, and then the women's just play the 10s kind of style stuff. So
Yeah, I think like
progressing.
It's growing all the time, and I think you can see that reflected in the squad that's here today. When you look at the Irish-based girls, there's probably a better geographical spread than there's ever been. So people coming from Cork, people coming from Galway, from Wicklow, from Northern Ireland. So I think that probably reflects the growth of the game and the interest levels there. So I'm sure that obviously those people will kind of stand out to their friends, and people want to get more involved.
Well, not even that. I think the number of the Irish-based girls compared to the English-based girls in this squad has even grown massively. The split would have been more so towards the English-based girls previously, but now we have, I'd say, more Irish-based players coming through, which is probably a reflection on the game growing in Ireland, because it definitely is growing pretty fast. Yeah.
What areas of the women's game do you think needs more focus right now?
For me, I think the obvious is the grassroots level, definitely in Ireland anyway. So just getting player numbers up, getting team numbers up. So I suppose, like Alex said, like you're competing against the likes of the union interprovincials are normally during the summer. You've got tag, you've got touch, you've got football going on, and then you have the Gaelic sports as well. So Gaelic football and camogie. So it's that competition for numbers, for eyes. You're always looking for the best athletes, and I suppose it's the case in a lot of women's sports that you get these. If you're a good athlete, you can probably be good at lots of different sports. Yeah. So yeah, it's competition.
I think funding. I'm gonna just throw out the generic women's sports needs more funding. I genuinely think it does. We've seen the likes of the England Rugby Union, the Welsh Union, who've started paying their players. Their standard has increased. Everything has really just increased with...
No, you're right. It's increased commercial interest and
commercial. That's exactly the word I was going to use.
There you go.
Yeah, so with more focus on something, obviously something's going to improve. So if we can have more focus on us, I think we're only going to get better, because we definitely have the talent. We just need the rest of everything to fall into place to help us get to the best we can be.
Well, you're almost doing it, aren't you? You girls are like trailblazers for the sport, really. You're putting on the Ireland jersey and people are going to see you. They might search you on the internet and find your name.
Oh, God, you might search yourself.
It's all going in the right direction, isn't it?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like, look, we've got a couple of the girls who've previously played for Ireland who are now over in Australia. A couple are on the West Tigers squads. I think having the first Irish NRLW player, which, I don't think we're that far away from, that would be huge for the game. We can see what's happened with the likes of the AFLW over there. There's a lot of Irish girls playing in that. Yeah. Off the back of the Gaelic games, just good athletes. So yeah, I think the first NRLW player who's Irish heritage will be absolutely massive.
And is that an ambition of yours? I know, Alex, you've tried it. Is it?
I'd definitely go back. I've been talking about it. I'm trying to get my boyfriend to come with me because I don't want to do it alone again.
Yeah.
I'll go with Jill.
Yeah, there you go. Sorted. Book the flights, pack the bags.
Yeah. Look, I guess every competitor wants to play at the highest level that they can. I'm definitely a competitor. So yeah, of course I want to play at the highest level that I can, and I'd love to play in the NRLW at some stage, if the opportunity arose.
Perfect.
Have to get to a World Cup first.
Yeah, you've got to do that. A friend of mine's just signed for Lee Leopards, and she's facing a massive sense of like imposter syndrome. My question is that something that either of you two experience, and if so, how did you overcome it?
I think we're pretty big personalities. I'm not going to lie. You definitely are. I'm totally reserved, as you can tell.
Wait, can you film a bit of training later?
Yeah, I will.
I would say, yeah, I'd say most women probably experience that at some point or another, right? Where you take a step up and you go, am I good enough to be here? I suppose you just need to back yourself and have confidence that you've been picked for a reason, and that coaches have obviously seen something in you. But you don't know until you try either. And the best way to improve is by playing with people who are better than you. So, yeah, if you get the opportunity to play in a squad and you think, not at the races here. It's just an opportunity to learn.
And yeah, even in terms of socially, I know girls can be pretty difficult. They're talking behind people's backs and everything. So it is hard coming into a new environment if she doesn't know anyone, or if other people are out there who don't know anyone. Just make an effort. No one's going to tell you to get lost. If anything, they're going to talk to you, and you're not going to grow into that social aspect if you're not putting yourself out there and trying to make friends. So just talk to someone, you never know.
If she's at Lee as well, she's got Quinny and Storm. They're great gals.
Molly.
They're great
to
gals.
be honest, is it Mairead, is it?
Yeah.
So Mairead was, apparently she took her under her wing, and Storm was very good as well, and kind of got her into the team, and, you know, but she's doing really good. It's funny, she's saying she got like imposter syndrome and then scored this like 60-yard try. It was just an incredible effort. So, you know, she's definitely in the right place.
Love it.
Absolutely.
I think like the likes of like Storm's been in loads of different setups. She would know what that feels like to come in kind of afresh, where you're coming into a quite a settled environment. And yeah, Quinny, Storm, Molly, they're all great gals. I'm sure she's in safe hands.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Is there anybody you want to sort of give a bit of a shout out to, sort of from the management team or anything like that?
It's Mother's Day, so can I skip the bit? Can I come back to the management?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, shout out to my mom on Mother's Day. My number one supporter, my joint number one supporter with my dad, I would say. She was, I was playing a match yesterday and she drove up and cooked her dinner afterwards. So yeah, that's my shout out, I suppose.
Yeah, we all need them, don't we? You know, you all need that little support at home or family support. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen, does it?
Yeah, that's true. Shout out to Mum as well. She doesn't actually like to watch me play rugby because the 2 matches she's ever watched me, I fractured my T5 vertebrae, or they thought I did anyway, and then it turns out a few weeks later that I didn't. I was just in a brace for the fun. And I can't remember the other injury. But yeah, she doesn't like to watch me. If she does, she wears sunglasses, so it's tinted and she can't see. But yeah, shout out to Dad. He coached me all the way. He's the rugby man. He's pretty cool. I think his head would swell if he heard that, so maybe we can cut that.
Get out, yeah.
And yeah, to my boyfriend, he's pretty supportive. So yeah, he drove me 14 hours here from, I actually live in Amsterdam.
Oh, really?
So he drove me for the last camp from Amsterdam to Calais and up here. Took 14 hours there and 14 hours back. Wow. Because the flights were over £400.
Passenger Princess Al.
Yeah, I slept the whole way while he drove. So shout out to Byron for the 14-hour drive.
Love it.
But it's that thing, in it, where everywhere you go in the world, there's an Irish person. You are that Irish person that's been everywhere, aren't you?
No, I actually am. Yeah, I love a good travel, me. My bank account doesn't.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I suppose speaking of management, though, we've got Kathy Byrne on board now as kind of our head of management. So that's super exciting. Again, a name that's very familiar to a lot of the Exiles folk. But yeah, really excited to work with her.
She's a queen.
Yeah,
she's like the best. Happy Mother's Day to Kathy. Yeah. She is our rugby league mom.
The momager.
Yeah.
Momager.
And to Matt, he's pretty cool too. The girls have taken everything in their stride so far with him, so he's pretty cool. Also, his head would swell too, so keep that on the low.
What excites you about women's rugby league in Ireland at the minute?
The growth, how quickly it's growing, the opportunities that are coming.
Alex said the growth. I would say the opportunities. Probably just so focused on, I suppose, what's directly ahead of us that it's kind of hard to look past that, isn't it? And I suppose, look, if we get there, I think that opportunity to go to a World Cup would obviously fuel the growth in turn. So yeah, just massively excited for the next couple of months.
In fact, is there anything about Irish women's rugby league that people wouldn't necessarily know? Too many secrets?
Don't. Trying to get me
You've opened a can of worms there, Matt.
I just saw a lot of stuff go across both eyes. I was like,
We only had this conversation the other day. We need to stop the cameras if we're going to discuss that.
Don't mention this.
Do you know what? I couldn't say it on the pod because I'm saving it for my memoirs. So you'll have to buy the book.
We were crying the other day. We were texting each other, literally tears streaming down our faces, thinking of some of the things that have happened. So.
Yeah, we've had great cry.
Anyway, before elaborating any further, we're all pretty close. I like to think the new girls coming in will get a sense of some sort of family environment, which is what I'm trying to push anyway. Building that positive environment that you're genuinely excited to come into. So, yeah, hopefully we can keep building on that and build something special and hopefully get to a World Cup and go to Australia in 2026 together and build a pretty solid memory. So, yeah, it's the goal.
Brilliant. Well, it's been a privilege talking to you both today. You both speak really well and present yourself really well. You know, definitely great ambassadors, not only for the sport, but for your country as well. So, you know, thanks from me for taking the time to speak to us.
No, thanks very much for having us.
Gurav Mila Mahagut.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. Oh, just before we finish, you say what we've got to say in Irish. We've got to finish on an Irish. Thank you for watching the Rugby League Outsiders, if you can say that.
Thank you for watching.
Gurav Mila Mahagut.
Sorry, what's it? Come again?
Thank you for watching the Rugby League Outsiders. Can you say that?
On Rugby League Outsiders.
Gurav Mila Mahagut on Rugby League Outsiders pod all echo.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
What she said.
She just called you a knobhead. That's the final whistle for this week's episode of the Rugby League Outsiders. We hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow us on social media and share this podcast with your friends. And as always, if you have a story to tell, a club to plug, or a player that deserves recognition, we want to hear from you. So until next time on the Rugby League Outsiders, take care.